Hello, welcome to TSC Talks, the source cannabinoids inspired by the condition known as tuberous sclerosis complex. My name's Jill Woodworth, and I am your host. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today on the podcast, my guests are co-hosting with me is Brooke Alisha, as well as our guest, Brielle Izabelle. She is a young lady, 21 years old, living with a TSC diagnosis. She's a college student, and she's here to share her story and talk about her YouTube channel, which is where I found her. She popped up, busting out some really incredible, honest, informational videos, speaking to her age group, dealing with the mental health burden, as well as all the other things that are challenging for a person of that age group and beyond. So just really proud of her for being willing to come on the podcast and talk about this really tough stuff that I've been talking about for so long. I might seem jaded and cold. I'm really not. Anyways, I asked Brooke to come on too because she's also an adult living with TSC, as well as having a daughter with TSC. And she's been doing some vlogging for herself and for TSC Talks. And I just love her attitude, and she's just a natural on the camera, and she did a great job in this interview, even though I cut her off. Sorry, Brooke, on a question. So just the three of us represent just different parts of the journey. If you're affected with a diagnosis or living with someone that has this diagnosis. And I think what I appreciate about both these women are, they're willing to talk about their secrets. And I don't mean secrets like, you know what I mean. So anyways, I'm going to tell you a little story. A close friend of mine passed away recently who was active in the recovery community locally, ended up moving to Florida a few years ago. I kind of lost touch with him. We had a really important connection. He was a cornerstone type person in my life. When I was at my bottom, he was there for me, and we spent a lot of time talking and getting to know each other. And he was one of those AAers that had all the quotes down, and one of his favorites was, "You're only as sick as your secrets," which really bugged the crap out of me because I felt like even though I was in recovery, I still had all these secrets, from years of living on the run, and really not living on the run, but running from one thing to another, never really being able to process any of it, and building up and doing things that, might not have been the most effective, having secrets, and just the weight of it brought me to a addiction problem and just to a real bottom. And this man, Paul, kind of helped me in a lot of ways pull myself together. And while I've stepped away from really being in that particular community, I will never, ever forget the things that I learned from him. And "You're only as sick as your secrets" is kind of why I started the podcast, feeling like there was just so much untold, so much that people didn't know about my own challenges, managing TSC, my children's challenges, and just how hard it can be with the way things are. I figured if I talked about it, other people would be able to relate, and that's kind of what happened. Letting people come on and share their own challenges. And I think hearing someone else talk about it, you think you're caught up in your own story and you've got the worst problems of anybody in the world. And of course you don't, but we can convince ourselves of that. And there was definitely a lot of dark days by talking about it, hearing other people. I was like, whoa, they dealt with that. How the heck did that happen? How did they get through that? Learning. And I guess interview after interview and story after story, I just heard people's secrets. I heard the things that maybe they hadn't said out loud in public anywhere. And I felt it was important to hear these things for me personally, for everybody in the community. And this whole piece of a TSC diagnosis dealing with the mental health issues that we're going to talk about. So tying it back to my friend Paul, and he struggled his whole life after coming into recovery still with tons of PTSD, medical issues, all kinds of ancillary problems that I think, of course, ultimately he fell victim to probably many variables. Just a wise soul who was on a path, and I was glad our paths crossed. So love you, Paul. And thank you, Brooke and Brielle. And I also want to give a shout out to my friend, mentor, collaborator, Mike Robinson, cannabis advocate, founder, Global Cannabinoid Research Center. He shared with me that he was struggling with PTSD himself recently, coming up on the anniversary of his horrific car crash that started him on another journey with major epilepsy and opiate treatment and cancer, and just a powerful mentor in my life. He mentioned that his brother had sent him a note, knew he was struggling with the anniversary of his car crash, and his brother happened to also be an auto racer. They used to race against each other, and his brother had mentioned that he was in rehab, having relapsed, and had been listening to the podcast, and it was helping. So Mike shared that with me, and whenever I hear that from somebody, it's just blows me away. So shout out to you, Eddie. Thanks so much for making my day, for listening, and hang in there. Dig deep and know that you are worthwhile and you are not alone. It's crazy times. We're all got this whole mind game thing going on. Who's right, who's wrong? What are the variables? How's it going to end? Is it going to end? All that. So hope you enjoy this podcast. It's a good one. These ladies get honest. We don't go into too much detail, but I think the focus is the sooner that you can accept basically this isn't going to go away, and try to have a positive attitude and find gratitude and do what you can to connect with others, help yourself, and never stop asking questions of your doctors, anybody, everywhere. Question, because you're the one that lives with it. You're the one that is there with yourself or your loved ones day after day. You know what's going on in a lot of ways, and respect that and share that with your caregivers, your doctors. We need the whole picture. We need to know about all the variables, not just cut and dry facts that sometimes is all that we talk about with our doctors or our treatment team. We need the real whole picture. So what I'm here to do is put it out there. Particular episode isn't necessarily on cannabinoid medicine, but to me that is the most promising hope, and I've shared a lot about that, so I'm not going to go into it here. I do feel it kind of is an underlying theme term. Also, we are launching a product line in collaboration with Mike Robinson. We're going to pre-sale one of the products coming up very soon. It is a forest bathing botanical terpene cannabinoid mix topical bath soap. So if you want to take a forest bath without going for a walk in the woods, which is what the terminology applies to, and staying in your house, you can do it with this product. So you're going to want to hear more about this. Anyways, I hope you enjoy this or get something from it. I'm going to play you out with a song, and then Brooke and Brielle. I have here on the podcast, I have Brielle. Is it Izabelle? Is that how you say your last name?
Yes. What's my middle name? Actually, I just go by
Nice. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have Brielle, Izabelle, and I have Brooke Alisha, who is going to co-host this episode of TSC Talks. And I saw Brielle on Facebook and her videos, and I watched them, and I was like, she looks like she should be on the podcast and talk about. Yeah. So, I think you're reaching a whole different bunch of people than what I've been doing. And, I think the more people out there that are talking about it and raising awareness, the better. So I appreciate, your bravery in coming out. And Brooke has been doing a great job with the vlogs and your work highlighting TSC families, and they're telling their stories is awesome. This whole coronavirus thing has been hard, I think, for everybody. So, Brooke, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself, and then I will throw it to Brielle?
Sure. Okay, so I am Brooke Alisha. My last name is Simsa, but I go by my middle name too, so we got that in common. But I was diagnosed at 18 years old with TSC, and then I also have a daughter with TSC. We suffered differently. We're both considered mild. However, it has been, in the TSC world, a whirlwind. I'm a hairstylist. I have another son who's a teenager. He turns 14 this month. And I've been a hairdresser for about 17 years. So it's been pretty interesting to work 17 years, be in this coronavirus, get told we're not essential, and now we have to go back to work like we're doctors. So it'll be pretty interesting. But yeah, I love working out. I love health and wellness. I take very good care of myself. I listen to podcasts, motivational speakers, anything I can dig into that fills my mind with positive things is what I've learned to do. I didn't do that so much in my 20s, but in my 30s, I really concentrated on keeping myself ahead of everything mentally. So that's a little bit about me. And Jill, what else did you need?
That's about it
me?
right this second. Yeah, I guess I should say, I don't know. I have 3 children with TSC. So all different, affected differently. And I will say that they're doing, overall, they're doing okay. I started the podcast in one place, kind of just talking about TSC and putting my story, their story out there, and then realizing I wanted to talk to other people. And then from there, kind of branching into the cannabinoid medicine area. And that's a topic for another podcast. But yeah, it will stay to TSC here. And I know TSC Global Awareness Day is on the 15th. So I might try to get it, at least some of the audio up by then and start putting some of this out there. So yeah, I felt like Brielle, you just hit the ground running, and coming out and talking about your diagnosis like that is admirable. So why don't you tell me?
Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to be like an advocate for TS. I think a lot of my childhood I was kind of like in denial in a sense, and I never really wanted to talk about it. But I think as I got older, now at 21 years old, I kind of took charge of it, especially in college. I was diagnosed at 14 months, so I've had it my whole life, and I have a very mild case as well. And I think just as a kid, you're kind of confused about what's kind of going on. Like, why do I have to go to the doctor so much? Why isn't my sister doing the same thing? So I think once I kind of saw the Facebook chat, I was like, okay, this is something that I want to put my story out there for, because even though certain kids don't have it as bad as I do, I still want them to feel comfortable in their own skin and feel like, this isn't going to define who you are. It's just a part of you. So I think that's kind of what really stuck out to me. So when I had this channel, I said, even if I have one subscriber that watches me every week, that's enough for me to feel like I've made an impact on someone's life.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of where that stems from.
Yeah. So you were diagnosed at 18 months, and when were you aware that you had this diagnosis, or that you said you went to doctors, or did your parents tell you, or?
They tried to. I think that they definitely tried to tell me, but it's just, I don't know. I think at that age, especially having a sister that's normal, relatively normal.
What is normal? Come on.
I kind of just look at her and I'm like, Mom, why am I not like her? Like, for instance, like with the ash leaf, like, I'm like, oh, Mom, like, why doesn't she have the ash leaf too? And why doesn't she have angiophotomas on her face? And, why isn't she having brain surgery or having foot surgery? Like, I was genuinely confused, but my mom never let me, like, make it affect me as much. She never let me define myself as that, because it's just a part of me. And if I dwell on it in a sense, or kind of just look at myself in a bad light, I'm never going to grow from it or take charge for what it is in myself.
Yeah,
I think.
That's amazing.
Brooke, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I actually want to know, like, where you live and, how were you diagnosed? I was really interested because I feel like on the other end, being 18 and how I was diagnosed, I'm just always interested to hear, like, when were you told, and where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey, North Jersey to be exact. I've lived in Bergen County my whole life, and I was actually diagnosed at NYU Hospital. What actually kind of set it off was that I had a seizure in the room with my sister. So my sister called for my mom, and my mom called 911. And while I was still at the hospital, I had another seizure due to the fever that I had. And they did MRI imaging. They looked at my ash leaf, and they told my mom, this is what she has. I'm sorry. We don't think it's going to be so bad, but, it's just a work in progress. So then from there, that's kind of how everything just started off my journey. And, they did a lot of imaging to see where else I had tumors, and kind of gave my mom more information, and just tried to keep her educated and keep my doctor's appointments running. So yeah, it's been a long journey. I don't know what my life would be like if I didn't know, or if I didn't have TS, because I've had it my whole life. So it's part of me.
So with saying that and that it's part of you, could you tell me like where you are affected, like what part of TSC, affects you daily?
So for me, I had very bad, I've been at special education my whole life. So it's really affected my learning more than anything at all. I've been in special education classes, I've dealt with like school situations like that, like bullying because of, how intense it really was for me because I did struggle. But the school system that I was involved in, they were amazing. And I was actually able to be super successful in school. I went to my dream college, and education is the biggest way that it's impacted me. And now as an adult, well, young adult, I think that it's really affected me with my mental health, which is something that I had no idea it would. I think that since my whole life it's been relatively stable, I didn't realize that, okay, there's other things that adult, which has been my mental health, like anxiety and depression and things like that. So I think my whole life, it's really just been my education. But now that I'm an adult and I'm kind of more in charge of my education, it's definitely my mental health and mental awareness. So I think that's the biggest thing, and it's affected me a lot, to be honest with you guys.
Absolutely.
So I know like 80% of people deal with a mental illness, and sometimes you deal with it worse on different ages. I obviously didn't really pay attention to it when I was younger because I didn't know, but watching my daughter struggle with the bullying and the IEPs and the learning and the therapist and all that stuff, it is very traumatic for someone to go through at any level. You are very well taught. You talk very well and you're very educated in my eyes. Like to see like so many of the TSC people I've seen, whoever has worked with you has done an amazing job. And I think that's incredible growth for you. Now, when you go into these years, when your hormones change and that different stuff, I just kind of want to know who you are. Like, let's get a glimpse into your life. Like, what's a day like with Brielle?
Yeah, I was going to ask about brain surgery. Just how was that for you?
Yeah, so I think that brain surgery was one of those things where I was sort of like, this is happening, what is going to happen after this? How am I going to be impacted? I wasn't educated. All I knew was that, one of my tumors in my brain, it needed to come out, and it needed to come out as soon as possible. So I think that being who I am today as well, I could say that if I didn't have brain surgery, I wouldn't know who I was either, because that was something that it's like my greatest achievement, to survive something so traumatic like that. A lot of people don't come out of that so lucky and so blessed. And I think that going through that and now being so healthy today is something that it's just amazing. It's something that I had to do. It's something that I had to face. I couldn't go around it. I couldn't wait a year for it to be done. And just for myself, I was a happy, healthy kid. I did everything my sister did. I never was really singled out. Like I know certain kids and teens with my disease, they're in wheelchairs, they're nonverbal and things like that. So I think that a glimpse in my life is I live a normal 21-year-old life. Anything you could really mention, I can't tell you that I don't do, except now during the coronavirus, all I do is I'm home. But, I drive. I had a job before this. I was going to school. I was successful in school this semester as well. I go out and exercise. I can eat all the same things. Nothing is different from me from a regular kid except TS. And I'm lucky to be able to say that, I think, because I see a lot of stories and I just feel so bad. But then I think, it's not about feeling bad. It's just some of us are just different. And it's something that we all have to accept. But we shouldn't all have different mentalities of who we are, because like I said, like it shouldn't define you. It's just part of you. Yeah. So I think that's the
Thanks for sharing about the brain surgery like you did. That's made me tear up a little. My daughter is 24 and she had brain surgery when she was, maybe 16. And, she really struggles with a lot of self-image issues. And just hearing you say that, I'm going to definitely send her that clip because, I think that what you're tapping into is the strength that you have through going through that and how you can't go back and owning that experience. That really, I think that really speaks a lot to me personally as a parent, having kids that are affected and thinking about how their future is going to be and how they're going to be able to integrate this into the reality. And, they've struggled. I think there's this denial piece that they've gone through. And, when do you give somebody the information about their diagnosis? When is it too heavy? All these questions that you never expected to encounter. Yeah, I would confirm that you've navigated this really, really well. And I would give props to your support system and you as an individual.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that, especially with me, I was 8 years old. So this was so long ago I think that also I don't really have memory of that time either. And I don't know if that's my subconscious trying to forget it or the brain surgery itself, but I was super young. That was almost 13 years ago. So I think it's harder I can only imagine how your daughter felt at 16 because it was 8 years difference.
Well, and it was an emergency situation too, so you can't really prepare for that. Yeah, so a typical day, and so where are you going to school?
I go to Fairleigh Dickinson University.
And what are you studying?
I'm a criminal justice and child advocacy major, so I would like to work in the foster care system. Originally, I wanted to be a teacher for special education, but I think that I had problems believing in myself as far as that goes, because I wanted to help kids like myself. But I just know I want to work with kids in general, so I was actually looking into facilities that required, foster care for children. Sadly, it's like they separate children from a regular child to someone with a disability. So at times they will have them in completely different departments. So I just want to make other children feel like they have a home place, like they're important. And that's kind of like my goal. I hope to graduate within the next year and a half, and I hope to be successful with my career, with TS, and just with my condition regardless. So I think that's my biggest goal at the moment.
That's pretty darn good. Yeah, I'd say. Brooke, do you have any questions? Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted, I'm really thankful you talked about the brain surgery. My daughter had it when she was 3, but like, that's what she lives off of. This happened to me. I'm like, I always tell her it doesn't define you, but it's so hard to get that out of, their head when they go through so much stuff. And like you said, you block things out. That's probably best. Anyways, how do you manage your TSC? Like, how do you stay positive for you?
To be honest with you, I found it very hard to be positive. I think that up until 2 years ago, I was finding it so difficult to be positive because just touching upon the mental awareness aspect of it, I'm the only one in my family that has it. I was a spontaneous mutation. I never met anybody up until recently with my disease. I never had someone, a friend or a family member that had an illness that could at least try to relate to me. So I think the majority of my life I felt alone. I felt singled out, isolated. And my mom is an amazing support system. She always was there for me. She never made me feel bad for myself. That was her biggest thing, to not feel bad for myself. So I think to manage it, I had a very difficult time. And up until recently, I started just saying, okay, you can't do anything. Like, what am I going to do? So I kind of just put myself in the mindset, and I said, you have to change your mindset because you're going to be 80 years old and you're still going to have this illness. It's not going to go away next year. You're not having it less and less every day. It's not going to go away. So I think a big point for me is, if to anybody else, it's hard. And I know I can tell you it's super hard even talking about it, but just feel like you have to move past and just accept, because there's no cure, which is unfortunate to say. So it's hard to deal with, I think, as a toddler, as a middle schooler, in high school. But I think there are better days to come. I can imagine at my age and at your age. So, I think that this is something that, you have no choice but to live with it, but you really have to put yourself in a positive mindset of, this is part of me. So, there's not much I can do except to talk about it. I think talking about it is the biggest thing. And that's why I was so happy to be able to come on the podcast, talk in the TS group chat. I met amazing girls. I hope they listen to this at some point. Amazing, amazing girls. We talk till this day. And yeah, I think it's really great. I do.
So I think that's incredible. Like the last thing I was going to ask you is, what is something you would say to encourage others, which you did do that. And I think it's so important when you change your mindset. For a lot of us, you're right. We have to live with this. There's no cure. At different ages, I've had different things come up, and you have too. And you just got to kind of like tackle it when it happens. I know, Jill, speaking of, an emergency surgery, there's stuff that we're not prepared for. But I can tell you with this coronavirus, even just this, like if I was in my mental state at 23 and where I am now, I would have been a different person in this. So to keep yourself ahead, to keep yourself, mentally telling yourself positive things. I actually have Post-it notes all up on my mirror telling myself, I am healthy, I am strong, I am bold. I do. And I just started it, but I'm like, I need to tell myself this stuff every day because it's so important for your growth, and for you to help others. Like if you're feeling down, which there are a lot of days because I'm kind of like you a little bit, Brielle. Like I was a spontaneous mutation. Nobody understood my mental illness. They were supportive and they kept me going. But until I got older and really dealt with it, I was in my home and wouldn't leave. And it was a really bad place, but I had already moved out. I was alone. Like it was devastating to my life. So to see you at 21, just, I know that there's still rough days, but you're glowing. You're doing incredible. And I am so thankful that you're reaching out to these other girls. I know that's been a huge support for my daughter, having her camp friends that all had TSC to talk to, because you do get very lonely. Nobody understands you. They don't even know what to say to you. So they say nothing. And then you're left in a hole, So I'm really thankful to hear your story and to hear you rise up from all this. I think it's great. I know there's going to be tough days. Like you said, there's no cure, but you have to like rise above that. And you're doing very well. You're doing a really good job.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent. I was going to ask how you manage your care, or do you have a TS clinic that you go to? What resources have you used, if any? Just so if anyone out there, is listening, just to hear somebody that has, I hate to say mild, because I think that anything that's a little different about any of us in this day and age can really be magnified by very broken systems. So feeling alone is just, it's not a nice, pretty world, and no one's going to cut you a break when you're out there and you're acting like throwing your behavior or your anger around just because you have TSC. You're not going to get away with it. We had a lot of behavior challenges in our household, and
yeah, I do. Even till this day, I do.
I was going to say, I think that's totally, honestly, I have a lot of behavior problems.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm a whack. I am not emotionally regulated all the time. I deal with a lot of stressful situations. And, I think moving in and out of a lot of crises kind of puts you in a place where you're on guard a lot. So that's something that I struggle with to this day. I think being honest about it too. I have some really crappy days. I see. Yeah.
It's hard. I think a big aspect that I want to put out there as well, something that I was actually very opposed to doing because I was so in denial that it would help me, is I had an empty journal in my room that my dad gave me, and I put it all the way in the back of the drawer, and I refused to write in it. I didn't even want to draw in it. I didn't want to even think about putting my feelings down. And one day I was feeling so terrible, and I said, I just want to get this out. And, even if this is the first and last time that I write in it. And ever since that day, I have not stopped writing in it every single night. And just like Brooke said, I will write, you got this, tomorrow's going to be better. I'll ask myself a question, let me know how tomorrow goes. And then tomorrow I'll write down, today I did this, this, and this, and I was feeling this, because especially now that I can't see my therapist, I need a means of releasing how I've been feeling. And I actually made a video about anxiety and depression as well, writing in the journal and giving yourself motivational words. It doesn't have to be something cliche or something that someone else told you, something that it's individualized to you. So yeah, I have 15 pages written out. I'll write 3 pages a day of just thoughts. And sometimes my hand will cramp up and I'll say, wow, today was a rough day. I should just go to sleep or something because sometimes it's very hard, especially now thinking like, oh my God, I'm 21 and it's still affecting me. How is this possible?
Yeah, I see my daughter. My 21-year-old she's an art student, and she's the least cognitively affected of my kids. And yeah, that's a huge thing. Is what am I going to do how am I going to get through this with this extra added stuff? And just falling into a lot of fear. And the writing has been a tool for me personally. I will, like, if I get in a bad mood and I'm starting a post or something, I will cut and paste that thing right into my journal instead of putting it on somebody's Facebook or.
Right.
So I'm always journaling and doing that. And I see my daughter, my oldest with TSC, she does a lot of like drawing and artwork, and she expresses herself with these really funny, like Family Guy. She'll like use the Family Guy theme to draw characters that help her get out her feelings. And I think you hit on something, is we've got to find a way to release it. And yeah, with coronavirus, what the heck are you supposed to do? I mean, we can't really connect in the way that we're used to connecting and whatnot. You guys all know that. So yeah, Brooke, do you have anything to add on that? Yeah.
No, I agree with her. Like, I have tons of journals underneath my bed. I pull them out for different things, I do the same thing. That's why I started writing these notes and putting them and taping them, because they weren't really that sticky. But my daughter writes every day, and they told her to do that and draw pictures. Like, even if she wants to, hurt somebody, she's got to draw it out instead of say it, because threats can get, if they get out into public and they want to threaten someone, it's not as easy to not mean it and then not be in trouble. Like, so they're like, even if you want to kill your mom, just write it down. Don't tell her. Like, so she started doing that, and it has helped a lot. I mean, we deal with like the behaviors too, but yeah, I listen to Hell with the Hustle. I listen to a lot of books. I'm not really much of a reader. I don't like concentrating, and then I feel like I have to reread. I don't know. It's always been a reading thing for me. I don't know if it's TSC related, but I just can't concentrate, and like, I can't absorb it. But if I listen to it, I do a lot better. So I try to listen to a lot of audiobooks.
That's cool. Interesting though, with the processing.
Yeah. I can write anything, and I can I took 5 years of Spanish and somehow made it. However, I can listen to someone speak Spanish and I can understand what they're saying, but I can't speak it. It's just, I don't know where it's disconnected up there or what's going on, but yeah, I definitely get a lot more out of listening to something. But, I don't like listening to the radio or people talking. I like, when the commercials come on, I literally go and find.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Like, I can't listen to whatever you're talking about in the morning. Nobody cares. Like, I really had just stopped allowing a lot of energy,
Good point.
and that's made a huge difference. So whatever their energy is about, I just try to absorb all that, but can't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Really good points. Yeah. I wanted to see what's your goal with the channel, and, where can we find you on the internet?
Okay. So I think that this is something I was actually thinking about the past 2 days, because originally it's funny. I had an outburst. I had a behavioral outburst, and I was like, hey, what the heck? I'm going to record this video right now. I'm not even going to edit it. I'm just going to post it on YouTube, and that's it. Because I want to verbally get my feelings out. That was my first initial thought. And my first video was just, hey, my name is Brielle. This is my channel. Thank you for everything. That was it. But once I started seeing a bit of a reaction, like 5 views, I said, okay, no, I'm going to make this something that's going to mean something to me. So I think that my goal with my channel is to just make people laugh, make people feel comfortable in their own skin with or without TS, reach the TS community, and hey, maybe one day someone super, super important is going to see it and say, what is TS? Let me email this girl and, find out more. I think my main goal with my channel is just to raise awareness, be an advocate. And, I have some funny videos. I have some like hair videos on there that I've posted recently, makeup. So I definitely want to do like 50-50. I don't want to lose track of the TS, but I don't want to lose track of other parts of me that people would like as well. And my YouTube name is just Brielle Izabelle. just how I think it's spelled here on the Zoom.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So that's where we find you. And yeah, I think that what you're doing is great. Not everything doesn't have to be about TSC. And that's kind of where I went with the podcast. It got to be really kind of heavy talking. And I just feel it's so important, though, for people to be able to feel comfortable sharing like what you shared, about an outburst or whatnot. Because come on, I mean, this isn't a lot of times what I felt like saying, this isn't typical. This isn't how things should be. And I'm supposed to pretend like, nothing's happening or, stifle it. And that just really built up. So, yeah.
I think that's my main thing. And I've been getting great feedback from other moms and other girls my age. And they're saying, I love your channel. You're giving us a voice, thank you for that. So I definitely think that no matter how far or short my channel goes, where I am right now with it, I'm content with my 19 subscribers. Like, that feels amazing to me. Not even in a funny way, in like a realistic way, because that means that there's 19 people that I've impacted already.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's something very big.
It is. And I think that, yeah, it's not focusing on the numbers. I mean, I would have quit this a long time ago. I think I have 55 subscribers. I've been doing this forever, So yeah, Brooke, where can we find you, and what are your business and vision pursuit? Wrap it up.
Yeah, so I love changing lives daily as well. Just even that one person matters to me. When this coronavirus started, a lot of stuff happened here at home. And so I haven't been like on it like I'd like to be. But, I want to incorporate people too into my world, like with hair and with what I do for my health and wellness, thriving, and just different things, and just show them that you can still live. You can still live with TSC, giving them a better quality of life, showing them that it's like you're able to do this, like you can do this. If I can, you can. Just going through different things. Mine, of course, is more on the mental end of it, but just being able to survive and overcome a lot of these things that are thrown at us. Like, we're going to have this stuff the rest of our life, but we got to keep going. And the life that we live is going to keep changing, and we've got to go with it. And, so some coping skills and stuff. And that's kind of where I want to go, like, with that. So I love that opportunity. I need to be more of an advocate, but I want to be an advocate for people that are lost, people that need to find themselves.
Good point.
Because that was where
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think one thing that I feel like that sometimes we're not reaching the people that really are in the trenches. I mean, through the podcast, I've had people pop up from time to time that, like, I'll hear what they're going through, and I just can't even believe it, and just, yeah. So I feel like it's just the more people that are out there talking about it and connecting, I think you reach a whole new population, Brielle. So good job.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Brooke, for the co-host.
Great. I love talking about it. Great.
Awesome job, ladies. We'll be in touch. That, my friends, is a wrap. You heard it here on TSC Talks, the source cannabinoids, inspired by tuberous sclerosis complex. As you can tell from the past episode, well inspired. So stay tuned for more about our forest bathing product. As well, remember to educate yourself on your endocannabinoid system, a major physiologic system of the human body. Go look it up. It's on PubMed. It's a thing. It's not a joke. You need to know about it if you have TSC. More information to follow. Take care, stay sane, and keep tuning in for more from this awesome podcast. Thanks to Lisa Larson and Chris Nichols for Lisa for her partnership, and Chris for his ongoing support and guidance. And Mike joining our team. You'll hear more from him, as you've heard a lot from him already. Major source of mentorship and collaboration. Over and out.